Rahul Gandhi says the government is making excuses of COVID to try and stop his Bharat Jodo Yatra from entering Delhi. Is it COVID or is it politics? I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo story. Our focus today is on the growing political controversy around Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Yatra at a time when China is showing an alarming surge in COVID cases. Because of that surge and because that variant is here in India, the government has sounded the alarm. But amid the safeguards it's seeking to take is to advise Rahul Gandhi to either follow COVID protocols in his Bharat Jodo Yatra or consider suspending it in national interest. The Congress has reacted sharply by saying that this is just an excuse. It is proof, the Congress argues, that the Yatra is getting under the BJP's skin, as the Bharat Jodo Yatra is at the edge of the capital and is scheduled to enter the capital over the weekend. The COVID surge is real, but how India should respond is something that has experts divided. At the moment, hybrid immunity suggests that we are certainly not in the vulnerability that China is, but the Indian Medical Association has guidelines of its own. But like in the second wave and in the first wave, politics and COVID have now got intermingled. It's been 100 days of the Yatra, and today we ask whether the government's advice to Rahul Gandhi is based on concerns for COVID or it's born from politics. Let's introduce our guests on the program today. Joining us from the Congress is Anshul Avijit, a spokesperson and leader. Good to see you, Anshul. Also joining us is Rahul Dev, a veteran editor and journalist. Always a pleasure, Rahulji. And finally, PKD Nambiar, who's of course a political analyst and a passionate supporter often of this government, is with us as well. I want to start actually by playing out what both the Rahul Gandhi and the health minister had to say in the light of this controversy. First, the health minister explaining on the floor of parliament why he wrote a letter to Rahul Gandhi asking for the yatra to be possibly suspended. Listen in.
कल तो विषय इसलिए उठा कि मेरी एक जिम्मेदारी बन गई कि सम्मानीय 3 सांसद ने राजस्थान से मुझे पत्र लिखा और उन्होंने मुझे कहा कि राजस्थान में जो यहाँ भारत जोड़ो यात्रा पास हुई और कई लोग ये यात्रा में शामिल हुए। शामिल होने के बाद वो पॉजिटिव पाए गए। सम्मानीय मुख्यमंत्री हिमाचल भी पॉजिटिव पाए गए यात्रा में भाग लेने के बाद। तो मुझे कहा कि उसके लिए प्रिकॉशन लेना चाहिए, आपको उसके लिए कुछ न कुछ करना चाहिए। तो मेरी जिम्मेवारी थी कि मैं राज्य के मुख्यमंत्री को लिखूं और यात्रा जो कर रहे हैं इसे उसके कन्वीनर को भी लिखूं कि उसके ऊपर प्रिकॉशन, उसके ऊपर जरा कोविड प्रोटोकॉल का पालन करें। मैं बात में पॉलिटिक्स में नहीं जाना चाहता हूं, लेकिन एज ए हेल्थ मिनिस्टर मेरा दायित्व है कि देश में कोविड ना फैले और उसके लिए मैं जागरूकता से काम करने की कोशिश की। लेकिन खास लोग थे, मैं क्या करूं अध्यक्ष जी, चेयरमैन साहब, खास लोगों के मैंने बोल दिया तो खास लोगों के फेवर में लोग निकल पड़े और नहीं बोलने की भाषा में मुझे और प्रधानमंत्री जी के बारे में भी टिप्पणी कर दी। वो एक बात है।
खास लोग थे, says the health minister, kind of giving up on that advice. But Rahul Gandhi and the Congress have actually seized it and converted it into political capital, saying that this is proof that the yatra is making the BJP nervous. Listen in.
अब इन्होंने नया आइडिया निकाला है। मुझे चिट्ठी लिखी कि कोविड आ रहा है, यात्रा बंद करो। कोविड आ रहा है, यात्रा बंद करो। अब भैया मतलब अब देखिए, अब यात्रा को रोकने के लिए बहाने बन रहे हैं। अब मास्क पहनो, यात्रा बंद करो, कोविड फैल रहा है, सब बहाने हैं। हिंदुस्तान की शक्ति से, हिंदुस्तान की सच्चाई से ये लोग डर गए हैं। ये सच्चाई।
Okay, so two very, very varying views there. Let me start with PKD Nambiar. Mr. Nambiar, I remember at the height of COVID when I was traveling across the country, even during the Bengal elections and the lethal second wave, politicians did not stop campaigning. That includes the BJP, the Trinamool Congress, and even the Congress, though it was the first party to actually withdraw from the campaign. Doesn't this seem like an excuse now, PKD?
Well, firstly, I believe that there is nobody has stopped, asked him to stop the campaign. This is something like which was only an advisory which is issued. And advisory, somebody who is a matured politician like Rahul Gandhi, by now at least, I believe that after at least 100 days of yatra, he should have been a bit more matured as a politician. And one of the oldest political parties should have been taken that in the right spirit rather than politicizing it. There is a challenge which is now, as we all know, that nobody knows in better than COVID than you as a journalist. I don't think anybody else in this country has ever covered. So I think when there is some kind of a challenge which is posing towards our country, it is in the national interest. We need to be careful. And it is only just when they got to know that there are some of the yatris have got infected, and including the Himachal chief minister, it is absolutely the concern of the health minister of the country to pause that onto those people. And beyond that, politicizing. Just imagine, Barkha, that if this advisory has been taken in the right spirit, okay, you just need to say that, okay, we will look after that. We understand as a responsible political party and a responsible leader, we will ensure that COVID protocols are being managed. And we know that when such kind of a rallies or a yatra take place, you can't maintain such way in anyhow. But
Hmm.
even though saying that shows the responsibility of you as a political party. Let me ask you that Jan Akrosh rally was happening across Rajasthan in the last 1 month or so, but they also stopped it. So it is not about one party. And if it is, yeah, I would not have supported this particular advisory if it has been said that tomorrow onwards you cannot take the possession of this yatra. 100 plus 110 days approximately this yatra has been happening,
Yeah.
Barka. Nowhere, never from Kanyakumari to till Rajasthan. Not even once the whether it has passed through many BJP ruled states, or and either the some central government nor any state government has passed any. They were always supporting and helping the yatra to move in a peaceful way. So I think
Okay.
making this as a political uh, to meme may not have been required. It could have been
Let
taken that in a right spirit.
let me get Anshul to come in. I can also see Dr. Shruti Kapila joining us. Welcome, Shruti. Anshul, here's the point. The health minister's letter doesn't actually say we're stopping the yatra or suspend the yatra. It says mask up, ensure people are vaccinated, and if you can't follow COVID protocols, then maybe consider halting it. Why is that something that the Congress sees as an attempt timed to the entry of the yatra to the national capital? Anshul.
That's because Barkha, a similar advisory, a similar letter was not sent to any of the other BJP functionaries, their state presidents. It wasn't sent to any organization as well. It wasn't sent to the prime minister, who just had a huge rally in Tripura. We don't know how the crowds came, whether they came themselves or it was brought for him. But there was a big rally. There was a lot of crowds there. Was a similar advisory sent to him? Will it be sent in future? There are a number of events which have been planned. G20 events, Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. There are a number of festivals, religious festivals, congregations that are going on in Gujarat, for example. Have advisories been sent there? And if they have been sent, then do share it with us, because it will dispel these notions that the Congress itself is being targeted. Nothing, that, Barkha, nothing that the BJP does, especially when it's a letter to Mr. Rahul Gandhi, is free of any kind of political intent. I mean, that's not what the BJP does. And it's
But
actually been applauded for it.
responsibly,
It
yeah, but
sleeps politics. It
res-
thinks politics in its sleep. Sorry.
no, I was just going to ask, but PKT Nambiar made the point that the Yatra has gone through many BJP governed states as well. This has never been an issue before.
No, so the problem is the success of the yatra is really getting to the BJP. It doesn't really know how to grapple with it. It's been trying very hard to snub it, to trivialize it, to ridicule it, to insult it with all kinds of comments, with fake news. I mean, it's not that it's not trying. It just doesn't know what to do with it. In fact, it's been mimicking it as well. The Jan Akrosh Yatra in Rajasthan is nothing but mimicking this particular success of this yatra, or the one in Karnataka, or the fact that the Prime Minister himself took this, road show, which they billed as the longest ever road show. I mean, similar words were. Ours is a genuinely historic yatra in the
Okay.
modern democratic world. It's not taken place, but they've been trying continuously to ridicule it. They can't come to terms with the success. Papers have been blanked out. In fact, I would say, Shruti is here, she knows psychoanalysis very well. When papers blank out things, or when there is omission is far more powerful than anything which is included. And just for a quick aside, and she knows this example, is the Mona Lisa became the most powerful painting in the world after it was stolen in 1911. So we don't mind all the blanking out of the news. It's a reflection on the success of the yatra rather than anything else.
So let me take it to the heart of the matter. How do you measure the success of this yatra? This has been a hotly debated issue. Rahul Dev, first you and then Shruti. Pratap Bhanu Mehta has an editorial in the Indian Express where he calls the yatra a journey in search of a destination, and he actually lists out three factors, three political measures to determine whether the yatra is a success or not. The Congress right now is turning around and saying the very fact that the BJP has written us this letter proves that we're getting under their skin. Rahul, you're a veteran sort of chronicler of politics. How do you see what's happening? Rahul Dev.
Well, to believe that anything politicians do or say is without politics is doesn't need any explanation. So there is politics, I would say, on both sides. And as Avijit said, had the same letter or similar letters been issued to other political parties or other wherever large gatherings are taking place and are going to take place in the very near future, then it would have made sense, and the impression that the Bharat Jodo Yatra has been singled out for this advisory wouldn't have been there. But it wasn't done. So this is the only instance we have of the health minister writing to anyone regarding taking protocols or adopting protocols or sort of suggesting postponement of a yatra. He knew that this would not be heeded, this would not be accepted. There's no question of the advice being accepted by Rahul Gandhi. Why did he do it? To score a political point. So, and secondly, we have visuals of the Prime Minister and other dignitaries addressing huge gatherings, including a very well-attended wedding last night or day before yesterday in Delhi itself, where no one was wearing any mask, including the Prime Minister. So all this makes it very clear that this is part of politics. This is politics. And so far as Rahul Gandhi is concerned, he instead of making it only political, he could have shown greater maturity and said, yes, COVID is a really potent threat. It's a serious challenge, and we need to follow protocols. And I'm going to adopt all protocols, all COVID protocols in my yatra. Everyone is going to be screened or whatever, and turned it into something really positive.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. Yeah.
Challenge.
Yeah. Shruti, that's an interesting point because I turn my memory back to the second wave when Rahul Gandhi was the first to actually announce that the Congress would be withdrawing from the mass campaigns in Bengal. All parties were guilty and culpable at that time, but the Congress was the first to actually step away and say, this is not the time to campaign. Now, Rahul Dev makes the interesting point that the Congress could have simply taken this moment and said, you know what, sure, we'll mask up. Sure, if need be, we'll walk in groups of 4 and we'll keep walking. We'll create social distancing. We'll create gaps. It didn't do that. And as Rahul says, there's been politics probably on both sides. How do you see what's unfolding, Shruti?
Hi, thanks, Barkha. It's actually really a game of political brinksmanship and bluffing. And that's really to do with the degradation of expert advice in India. So if you compare what happened when during COVID, whether it was America, when you had a hostile medical officer in relation to the president, Anthony Fauci famously, and Chris Whitty in England, also hostile to Boris Johnson, we have really not empowered empowered our medical office to actually speak with the voice of an expert. Now that is first and foremost, and I think the blame lies with the current government because it has entirely politicized and executivized every kind of expertise and politics and politicized every kind of expertise in this country, in India. So that's first. So who do you actually listen to? For sure, the China story is important, but then comes the second question. For the government, I think this is a problem because is your vaccine story a success or not? Because, of course, every expert out there in the world is saying that the China crisis is precisely because its vaccines hasn't been a success. Now, if it hasn't been a success, which is why it had the severe lockdown, it is now going to force the world again into a crisis. But as far as I'm concerned, if you look at Britain, if you look at every other airport, everything is working normally on the basis that science has worked, the vaccines have worked, and certainly India was, this is Prime Minister's big success story, that yes, he got 1 billion people, plus shots in the arm. So, which is it that India is now going to give credence to? Its vaccine story and allow. And finally, I do think the yatra has been a success, which is why it has been a success both in a way that has caught off guards everybody, both including the Congress party, because in a way I think it is not able to go back to Pratap Bhanu Mehta's piece. It is not yet able to actually, gain politically from it, because it is in a way was perhaps, has been sort of surprised by the mass support. It has obviously galvanized its local units wherever it has gone. But anything beyond that, which Pratap is also mentioning in its piece, I think there's a kind of lack of preparedness in the Congress itself maybe they do and they're not sharing it. How are you going to kind of make a political statement gain out of it? We've seen there's a new narrative for sure. Indian politics now, the commentators, no one can actually say that there is no alternative narrative there. That in that sense, it's already a success that there are now, I remember 5 years ago, people used to say, the likes of Savan Das Gupta used to say, well, there are two ideas of India, only one has always talked about it. Now, yeah, you have politically two ideas of India, which are going to be contested electorally and politically.
Okay, so that's interesting because the argument, of course, could be made that the recent electoral test threw up a wipeout for the Congress in Gujarat, a salvation in Himachal. And one of the lines, PKD Nambiar, in that piece by Pratap Bhanu Mehta is that it's unusual for a political journey to appeal to citizens but not address voters. And I found that distinction quite interesting. PKD Nambiar, here's my question to you. I think one of the things that a number of Indians are feeling is that for all the snafus, the mistakes, during COVID, when you look at China, you have reason to feel relieved as an Indian today. You have reason to feel so much worked, and so much eventually worked well, even if at great personal cost to so many Indians. Today, in the absence of official announcements of generalized restrictions, this letter to Mr. Gandhi seems quite dodgy, wouldn't you say?
That is not the case. I'll tell you, health crisis is always a very dynamic one. You cannot. I would rather say that in the Himachal election, Delhi municipal MCD elections, and then followed by Gujarat election, it was so much of everything in an ideally a political discourse. Election rallies were happening in full swing, including the Prime Minister. To everybody was there. So I don't think that it is nothing to do with any particular rally. It is just an advisory. And what is the meaning of an advisory itself? Is that please be careful. And if it is not, if at all, if you are not sure that you will be able to maintain the COVID protocol, then maybe try and delay this as we get to know over a period of time whether if it will it be affected in India again or not. But one thing we have to be very this time around, as Rahul ji said, even in fact I was also making that point initially. A matured politician like Rahul Gandhi could have only said that a country like India, there can never be 100% foolproof masking up, or for that matter any protocol. He could have just said that thank you so much for your letter. We as a political party do understand the concerns shared by you, and we will definitely try and make it a point that we will follow the protocol. That's it. That could have been given a positive sentiment. Now what we are getting it the way in fact Rahul Gandhi was just making a mocking that this advisory, that yes, a bahana hai. So if it is a bahana, then not okay. Then Himachal Pradesh chief minister didn't get he should say that I didn't get the.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point. And let me take that to Anshul, that the Himachal Pradesh chief minister, I know this because I was meant to interview him, and our interview got cancelled at the last moment because I got pneumonia and he got COVID. And so the point that has been made, of course, even by the health minister in Parliament, is that the chief minister got COVID after walking at the yatra. So that points to the fact that the Congress's own leaders are are vulnerable? Anshul, that's a reasonable question, I think, for PKD. Anshul?
No, so this kind of subvariant, the BF7 subvariant, has been found in various places. It's been in Gujarat. It's been there for a bit. But it's probably entered into our population as well. Has the government? This is not the first time that somebody has got COVID in this country. Has the government taken any steps to prevent that? Why did it begin with this kind of political point scoring? And there's a history behind it, Barkha. It's not mocking it. Nobody's undermining the what COVID has done to this country. I mean, you were there. The kind of devastation it can cause. I mean, nobody's undermining it. We know about the dangers of COVID. They're always there. But from the time last year, when the delays in invoking COVID protocols because you wanted to topple a government, from the time you had the ill-conceived lockdown, from the fact that you didn't order vaccines, the kind of incompetence that you showed during the second wave, you know it all very well. It doesn't need any kind of reminding. The kind of the differential pricing that you had completely politicized it. The fact that you told the states to go and buy your own vaccines from outside this country, in unleashing some kind of a Darwinianism between states. I mean, all completely politicized. The government has drawn first blood. I mean, it has politicized everything right from the beginning. Nobody can take anything that the government says seriously. Yes, you take medical advice seriously, and we know it. We don't need the government to tell us this. In fact, when the government says, listen, the population should take care of itself, do masking, it's almost saying that, listen, we guys can't help you because we've got such a bad track record, such gross incompetence was shown by us by not ordering vaccines that could have saved, many lakhs of lives.
Well, the last bit. Well, on the last bit, just on the masking up, that is the fallback across the world, even today, for crowded areas. But of course, there's a well-established record of what went wrong in the second wave. So I think we don't have to relive or underline that. Let me get Rahul and Shruti, and then come to all of you for last comments. Rahul, the measure of success of this yatra. You see, the Congress is taking this debate around COVID and saying this is the proof we are successful. Now, I want to bring up, this is not the most updated survey, but Sea Voter had a survey as recently as November. I think, Shruti, you might have seen some of these figures. And they looked at what had happened to Rahul Gandhi's perception nationally. If we can bring this up, since before the beginning of the yatra and then after the yatra. And certainly, you can see that there is some percentage point improvement in the way that Mr. Gandhi is perceived nationally. But actually, the real repairing is how he had plummeted just before Lok Sabha 2019 to before the yatra, and then he picks up. You can see that there on your screen. But when it comes to how Mr. Modi is perceived versus Rahul Gandhi, there is actually, it's a no-brainer. And we'll bring up those slides. The Prime Minister's popularity has, in fact, only increased. So as that slide comes up, and there it is, this is, the preferred candidate for PM, how the Prime Minister is perceived since the yatra started, and there's similar numbers for Rahul Gandhi. Rahul Dev, the upshot is quite simply, there has been a repairing of how Rahul Gandhi is perceived, but not far enough that we know of for it to be a significant challenge to the BJP. So when the Congress says the BJP is nervous about us, what do you say?
I think I heard the press conference of Rahul Gandhi in Rajasthan, the famous or infamous press conference, much talked about press conference. And I found him to be very, I was impressed for the first time in my life with Rahul Gandhi, I must confess. And I found, I felt genuinely that actually, one can believe that the purpose of this yatra is not really gathering votes or increasing the vote share of Congress party or an out-and-out political purpose, but something deeper and better and higher. And I'm beginning to believe that now. So I would not judge this yatra by its ability to gather or increase the Congress party's vote share or Rahul Gandhi's own political political rate in the market of politics. But it certainly, as figures also show, it has already changed his image in the country, despite the fact that the big media has sort of not covered it at all, or covered it grossly inadequately.
But let's hypothetically say, before I come to Shruti, that the next round of elections, Karnataka, the Congress certainly, I think, has a fighting chance from my own anecdotal sort of impression. But I'm making a hypothetical argument, Rahul Dev, that if the next set of elections were proved to be unsuccessful for the Congress, could the Yatra still be called a success?
Uh, I think we need to keep the two slightly separate even now. Uh, we know how elections are won and lost. So, one leader's or even Rahul Gandhi's image is just one factor among several that lead to the political outcome of election. So, I won't venture a guess as to what's going to happen in Karnataka. But this will certainly add gravitas to the image and perception of Rahul Gandhi when he goes out and campaigns for his party wherever he goes. So that is one solid gain, I would say, that now the Pappu is gone. The BJP and the government have sought for several years to sort of destroy him and his image by calling him Pappu and all sorts of things. Now that is going to not work. It may rebound even. That itself is a major gain, I would say. And if Rahul is wise and has wise advice, he can use it to advantage, his own advantage and his party's advantage. How far is he able to do that in a given election, state election? As I said, everyone knows there are several factors that contribute. So those factors are going to have to we will have to be looking at them as well.
Let me give Shruti the last word here. Shruti, for you personally, what would be the measure of success? I think Rahul Dev makes the interesting point about the caricaturing of Rahul Gandhi somehow being forced to an end by this yatra, saying that in itself is a success. But you saw some of the commentary in the aftermath of the wipeout for the Congress in Gujarat. And a lot of the editorials argued that there was a dissonance between the yatra and elections, and this could end up being motherhood and apple pie. And if it ends up being that, then that's just virtue signaling, nothing more. What is the measure of success of this yatra?
Okay, first and foremost, it is already a success in terms of a narrative as well as a political face to the main opposition in India. So it will not be Kejriwal, it will not be Mamata, however much they try. It's going to be Mr. Rahul Gandhi's face as the face of, as it were, an ethical, political opposition to the politics of Hindutva. That's done. But I do think if you even look at the BJP's rise to political power, it took 10 years after the rise of the movement. The movement has always changed political mandates in India. Electoral politics is just one end of it. So even the Ram Janmabhoomi, which was actually galvanized as a social movement, from then on to the BJP government was a 10-year hiatus. And that's really how political change works in India. There is no political change without a social movement. This is the history of India from Gandhi to today. There might be torjor, you might topple governments here or there by MPs, you can have defections in the long, but if you analyze it properly, so the touchstone is going to be 2029. But on the other hand, if they do not have a good fight back in the upcoming elections, whether it's Karnataka, if actually the Congress doesn't win in Karnataka, it might be a jolt, it might go like MP, who knows what's going to happen. But those are minor, I wouldn't say minor, but they are just kind of obstacles on the way. But the touchstone is going to be 29, whether there is actually a real political change in this country, because you're now going to have the maturing of a dual political ideological system in operation in India. And the next election, 24, will tell us how much or not, where the Congress will have to go. But actually, huge gain, absolutely huge gain, not just in terms of image politics, but changing even you are taking them a bit seriously, if I might say so. there's a way in which there's a kind of everyone has to give a second chance. Everyone is having to kind of sit back.
Well,
Even
mass
the
mobilization.
the harshest critics have had to say, well, and this is the politics of ethical. When this is what Gandhi taught us, that actually the political sphere can only be changed if it's so heavily opposed to you by an ethical politics. It might be slow. It will require patience. It will require all sorts of kind of losses on the way. But my touchstone is 29. It's not 24. But before that, they need to do some work, obviously.
Well, I'm going to have a separate program on the ideological distinctions between the Congress or Congress-led ideological space and the BJP-led ideological space, as you have described this dualism. But for now, Shruti, that's a fascinating idea of social movements being inherent to political seismic shifts. We definitely saw it with the Ayodhya movement and the rise of the BJP going from 2 to 80 in the first sort of set of years. We'll have to leave it there. Rahul, Dev, Anshul, Avijit, Shruti, Kapila, and to PKD Nambiar. Very interesting. I don't think the yatra is actually halting, stopping. As Mr. Gandhi said, it is going all the way to Kashmir. And as Rahul Dev said, there is politics on both sides, but that is what politicians are meant to do. It is for the voter, for the people, for the citizen to draw their own conclusions about who is at this point making more compelling sense. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend. See you tomorrow. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.